Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're going to be looking at the origins and the evolution of Santa Claus.
Santa Claus.
You know, that jolly old elf who somehow manages to deliver presents to every good child in the world all in a single night.
Yeah.
We've got some fascinating sources here.
Yeah.
One that delves into the historical roots of Santa,
Okay.
and then another one that explores international variations of Santa.
I think what's really interesting about Santa Claus is how this figure, who seems so simple on the surface,
Yeah.
actually has roots that stretch back centuries.
Mm-hmm.
And it's this blend of history and mythology and even a bit of marketing genius along the way.
Okay, so before we get to the red suit and reindeer,
Sure.
let's start at the very beginning.
Okay.
Who was the Saint Nicholas character, and how did he become associated with giving gifts in the first place?
Well, St. Nicholas was a real historical figure,
Oh, wow.
a 3rd century monk born in what is now Turkey. And he was known for his piety and his generosity, particularly towards children.
Okay.
And there's a famous story about him secretly providing dowries for 3 sisters who otherwise would have been sold into slavery.
Wow. So Santa was a social justice warrior before it was cool.
That's one way to put it.
Yeah.
Quite a bold move for a 3rd century monk.
Yeah. It's amazing how one act of kindness could spark a legacy that lasts for centuries.
It really is.
But how did we get from a Turkish monk to the global icon we know today?
Well, his reputation for generosity made him the patron saint of children.
Okay.
And his feast day, December 6th, became a time for celebrating his good deeds.
Mm-hmm.
The Dutch, it seems, were particularly fond of St. Nicholas.
Oh, really?
They called him Sint Nicholas,
Okay.
which eventually got shortened to Sinterklaas.
So that's where the name Santa Claus comes from. It's
Yeah.
like a centuries-long game of telephone.
Yeah, exactly.
But I'm picturing something a bit different than our modern Santa.
Yes, early depictions of Sinterklaas were a bit more
Yeah.
eccentric. Some described him as a rascal in colorful clothes,
Oh,
while others imagined him sporting huge Flemish trunk hose.
that's hilarious. Can you imagine showing up at the mall and seeing that version of Santa?
I don't think they make those suits anymore.
But those Dutch settlers brought their Sinterklaas traditions with them to New York.
Exactly.
Uh-huh.
By the 1770s,
Okay.
newspapers were already reporting on families gathering to honor St. Nicholas's death anniversary,
Oh, wow.
keeping the tradition alive in the New World.
Okay.
And this is where the American Santa story really starts to take shape.
So how did Santa go from a niche figure celebrated by Dutch families to a national sensation? Was it just a natural evolution, or did something else happen?
Well, a number of factors kind of converged to propel Santa into the spotlight.
Okay.
By the 19th century, Christmas itself was becoming a more secular holiday,
Mm-hmm.
with gift-giving taking center stage.
Okay.
And this shift coincided with the rise of a powerful new force, advertising.
So even back then, Christmas was about shopping.
It seems
I guess some things never change.
from the 1820s onwards, stores began advertising. Christmas shopping with Santa Claus, often featured prominently in their ads.
Oh, wow.
Newspapers even created dedicated sections for holiday advertisements, showcasing all the latest and greatest gifts that Santa could bring.
It's fascinating how Santa was used to drive consumer behavior, even in those early days.
Yeah.
Do you have any examples of how this early Santa marketing played out?
Imagine this. In 1841, a Philadelphia shop displayed a life-size model of Santa Claus,
Wow.
drawing thousands of children eager to see the jolly figure in person.
That's incredible. It sounds like a 19th century version of a viral marketing campaign.
Yeah, it was quite a sensation.
But wasn't this also the time when Santa started to appear in literature and art, further solidifying his image in the public imagination?
You're absolutely right.
Yeah.
While marketers were busy using Santa to sell products,
All right.
artists and writers were busy crafting the image we know and love today.
Mm-hmm.
In 1822, Clement Clark Moore penned the now iconic poem, "'Twas the Night Before Christmas."
Oh, that's the one with the line, "Visions of sugar plums danced in their heads," right? It's amazing how one poem could have such a lasting impact on our collective understanding of Santa Claus.
It's true.
Yeah.
Moore's poem cemented the image of Santa as a jolly chimney-descending elf with a team of reindeer.
Right.
Ironically, Moore initially hesitated to publish the poem,
Right.
thinking it was too frivolous.
Wow. Imagine if that poem had never seen the light of day. It's hard to picture Christmas without those iconic verses.
It really is.
But it wasn't just about words. Santa was getting a visual makeover, too, wasn't he?
Yes. Enter Thomas Nast, a political cartoonist who in 1881 created the first widely recognized visual of Santa Claus, drawing heavily on Moore's poem for inspiration.
So this is the Santa we all know, the rotund, cheerful figure with the white beard sack of toys and that iconic red suit with white fur trim.
Precisely. Nast's vision became the blueprint for the modern Santa.
Wow.
And he didn't stop there. He also gave us the North Pole Workshop, the elves, and even Mrs. Claus.
Talk about a legacy. He basically created the entire Santa Claus universe as we know it.
He really did. It's quite remarkable.
It's remarkable how much of what we associate with Santa can be traced back to one man's imagination.
Mm-hmm.
But while the American Santa was evolving, didn't other cultures have their own unique takes on the gift-giving tradition?
You're right. The concept of a magical being bringing gifts during the holiday season is a global phenomenon.
Right.
But let's dive into those fascinating variations in the next part of our deep dive.
Okay, sounds good.
Welcome back to our deep dive into the world of Santa Claus.
It's amazing how Santa's image evolved from those early depictions to the one we all know so well today.
Mm-hmm.
But you mentioned other cultures having their own gift-giving figures.
Mm-hmm.
What are some of those traditions, and how do they differ from our American Santa?
Well, in many European countries, the gift giver isn't a jolly old elf at all,
Okay.
but a figure known as the Christkind.
Christkind, that literally translates to Christ child, right? That's quite different from a bearded man squeezing down chimneys. Yeah.
Exactly. The Christkind is often depicted as an angel-like figure,
Okay.
representing the spiritual aspect of Christmas. In
Right.
Germany and parts of Switzerland, the Christkind brings gifts to well-behaved children on Christmas Eve.
It's fascinating how these traditions reflect different cultural and religious perspectives on the holiday.
Yeah.
Are there any other examples of these international Santa figures?
Oh, absolutely. In Scandinavia, they have Joltumfelten,
Joltumvelten.
a mischievous but ultimately benevolent elf who lives in the forest and delivers presents on Christmas Eve instead of reindeer, though Joltumfelten rides a sleigh pulled by goats.
Goats. That's even more magical than reindeer. It seems like every culture has its own unique spin on the gift-giving tradition.
Absolutely. In England, they have Father Christmas,
Okay.
a figure who bears some resemblance to our American Santa,
Right.
but has his own distinct history and traditions. Father Christmas is known for filling stockings with treats on Christmas Eve.
So we've got a gift-giving Christ child, a goat-riding elf, and a stocking-stuffing Father Christmas. It seems like the possibilities are endless.
They really are, and each of these figures carries unique symbolism and cultural significance.
Right.
For instance, in Italy, children eagerly await the arrival of La Befana,
La Befana.
a kind witch who delivers gifts by broomstick on the eve of Epiphany.
A gift-giving witch. That's so cool. It makes you wonder if these figures all evolved independently or if there was some cultural exchange happening across countries and centuries.
That's a great question. There's likely a bit of both at play.
Yeah.
Some of these traditions have ancient pagan roots
Okay.
that were later absorbed into Christian celebrations, while others may have spread through trade routes and cultural interactions.
Right.
It's a fascinating tapestry of influences.
It makes you appreciate the global reach of this concept, the idea of a magical being bringing joy and gifts during the holiday season. But now let's circle back to our American Santa and those traditions unique to our culture.
Of course, we've talked about the chimney-descending Santa and the gift-filled stockings.
Right.
But there are so many other elements that have become central to the American Santa experience.
Right, like the whole naughty or nice list. I remember being terrified of ending up on the wrong side of that list as a kid. It definitely influenced my behavior, I'll admit that.
The song Santa Claus is Coming to Town certainly reinforced that message, didn't it?
Yeah.
He sees you when you're sleeping. He
Yeah.
knows when you're awake.
Yeah,
It's a brilliant blend of festive fun and subtle behavioral control.
absolutely. But there's also the tradition of leaving cookies and milk for Santa and carrots for the reindeer.
Oh, yeah.
It's a sweet gesture that makes the whole experience feel more personal and interactive.
And don't forget the letters to Santa.
Right?
Children pouring their hearts out onto paper,
Mm-hmm.
sharing their wishes and dreams with a magical figure at the North Pole.
It's true. Those letters create a connection, a sense that Santa is a real person who listens and cares. But speaking of the North Pole, there's a whole cast of characters up there helping Santa with his massive operation.
Yes, we can't forget Mrs. Claus.
Right.
The elves, diligently crafting toys in Santa's workshop.
Yeah.
And, of course, the reindeer who pull his sleigh through the night sky.
And each of those reindeer has a name and a personality, thanks in no small part to Clement Clark Moore's poem, Dasher, Dancer, Prancer, Vixen, Comet, Cupid, Donner, Blitzen.
Ah, But you're forgetting one very important reindeer.
You're right, we can't leave out Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. His story is a bit different from the others, though, isn't it?
It is unlike the other reindeer who came straight from Moore's imagination.
Right.
Rudolph was a much later addition to the Santa Claus story.
Okay.
He was created in 1939 by Robert L. May, a copywriter for the department store Montgomery Ward.
Wait a minute, are you saying that this beloved Christmas icon was originally a marketing ploy?
Believe it or not, that's exactly how it happened. Montgomery Ward wanted a unique Christmas story to give away to shoppers during the holiday season, and Rudolph was born.
So even Santa's reindeer aren't immune to the power of advertising. It's amazing how a character created for a marketing campaign could become such a global phenomenon.
It is. But I think Rudolph's story resonated with people for a deeper reason.
Yeah.
He was the underdog, the one who was different and ostracized. But in the end, his difference became his strength, allowing him to guide Santa's sleigh through a foggy Christmas Eve.
It's a powerful message, especially for children. It
Yeah.
teaches them to embrace their individuality and to see the value in what makes them unique.
And it reinforces the idea that even those who are seen as different or less than can rise to the occasion and become heroes.
It's true. Rudolph's story is about much more than just a red nose. It's about acceptance, resilience, and the power of finding your purpose.
But as fascinating as Rudolph's story is, it's just one small piece of the larger Santa Claus puzzle.
Right.
We've traced his evolution from a historical figure to a marketing icon to a globalized symbol of holiday cheer.
Yeah.
But what does it all mean?
Right.
What does Santa Claus represent to us both individually and as a society?
That's a big question. On the surface, he's all about generosity and spreading joy. But there are definitely some deeper layers to unpack here. I think for many of us, Santa Claus represents the magic and wonder of childhood.
That sense of pure joy and anticipation on Christmas morning. The excitement of opening presents and that unshakable belief that anything is possible.
Exactly, as kids, we fully embrace that world where reindeer can fly and a jolly man can squeeze down chimneys. But even as we get older and maybe start to question the logistics of it all,
Yeah.
there's still a part of us that wants to believe.
Yeah. It speaks to our innate desire for hope and wonder. A belief in something bigger than ourselves.
Right.
Santa Claus embodies that sense of possibility, reminding us that even in a world that can often feel cynical and harsh, there's still room for magic.
And it's not just about believing in Santa himself. It's about believing in the values he represents: generosity, kindness, and the idea that good deeds are ultimately rewarded.
That's such an important point. The naughty or nice list isn't just a tool for behavioral control. It also reinforces a sense of fairness and justice,
Right.
teaching children that their actions have consequences.
And that even though Santa is watching, he believes in their capacity for good. It's a powerful message that can stay with us long after we've stopped believing in the literal Santa.
Absolutely. And for many adults, the figure of Santa Claus evokes a sense of nostalgia,
Yeah.
a longing for that simpler time when the world felt full of wonder and possibility.
I think that's why so many of us continue to embrace Santa Claus traditions. Even as adults, we decorate our homes, watch classic Christmas movies, and maybe even leave out cookies for the big guy himself.
It's a way of connecting with our inner child, rekindling that sense of magic and joy that can get lost in the hustle and bustle of adult life.
Yeah.
And it's a way of passing those traditions down to future generations, keeping the spirit of Santa Claus alive.
But, with everything we've discussed today, it's clear that Santa Claus is more than just a jolly figure in a red suit.
Yeah.
He's a symbol that has evolved over centuries, absorbing different cultural influences and reflecting our changing values and beliefs.
It's fascinating to consider how Santa Claus might continue to evolve in the future.
Yeah.
Will we see a more eco-conscious Santa, perhaps trading in his sleigh for a solar-powered hovercraft?
That would be pretty cool.
Or maybe a more diverse Santa, reflecting the richness and variety of cultures around the world?
Those are great questions, and I think the answers will depend on how we as a society continue to evolve. Santa Claus is ultimately a reflection of our collective imagination, our hopes, and our dreams.
He embodies our capacity for generosity, kindness, and belief in something beyond ourselves.
Right.
And as long as those qualities endure, I think the spirit of Santa Claus will continue to inspire and captivate us, no matter what form he takes.
Well said. It's been quite a journey exploring the origins and evolution of Santa Claus.
Yeah, it has.
We've learned so much about history, culture, marketing, and even human psychology along the way.
It just goes to show that even the most familiar figures can hold hidden depths and unexpected connections.
Right.
And it's a reminder that the stories we tell ourselves, The traditions we embrace and the symbols we cherish all have the power to shape our understanding of the world and our place in it.
Absolutely. But before we sign off, we'd love to hear from you. What does Santa Claus represent to you? Has your perception of him changed after this deep dive? Share your thoughts with us on our social media or website. And until next time, happy holidays and happy deep diving.